All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Palantir Weekly Review. I'm your host, Amit. Now, Chris couldn't be here this week because he's going to an Andrew Schulz. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Palantir. It was playing in the background. Chris is going to an Andrew Schulz concert today. Great comedian at Radio City Music Hall, so it's going to be a fun concert for him. I have a guest who hit me up about a week ago called Lucid Verse. His name is Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes by Twitter account Lucidverse. It's in the description. You can check him out. He has a YouTube channel as well called Bullish Mindset. He was an early investor in Ethereum and Tesla, and now he invests in public companies and some private companies like startups. So very excited to get his thoughts today around Palantir because he does believe it has a lot of potential, and it's going to be interesting to kind of hear his thoughts today. So Anthony, thanks for being on. I guess I'll start the question with why Palantir? Why did it interest you when you started buying it?
I honestly think that Palantir is a company that could go up to $150 to $200 rather quickly, a lot quicker than a lot of other people. But the thing about Palantir is people don't understand what Palantir is and does. You can go to a Target and see the parking lot filled, see people's carts and see how many people are purchasing it, but you can't physically go to a Palantir, which is why a lot of people don't invest into it. And it is one of the most innovative and disruptive companies that we have actually seen, and companies that even want to be I guess that companies that want to succeed in the next level are going to need to use Palantir to do that. So what is the market going to really give the valuation of Palantir when you need to use them? I think that Alex Karp is a genius. I think that Peter Thiel is unbelievable. They are both innovative and disruptive minds, and I think it's going to continue to increase the amount of traction the company gets. And I think that their SPAC investments are absolutely amazing too. So I just think that overall Palantir is super undervalued and a company that could be the next $100 billion company rather quickly.
Let's talk a little bit about management and how you feel about management when evaluating company. You were an early investor in Tesla, and I say early around 2018, 2019. So what did you see when you made the Tesla investment from a management perspective, and kind of what do you see in the Palantir side?
Well, Tesla had incredible executives. They built their team around technology. And also, Elon Musk is a once-in-a-lifetime CEO and founder of any company. I know he wasn't the founder of Tesla, but when you look at Elon Musk, he is somebody that is going to bring people to wherever he goes. It's the same thing when he did PayPal. It's the same thing when he was Starlink and SpaceX. He is an incredible mind, and that similar management team with the technology, they were the ones that have gone and dispersed to other companies. So when I saw Tesla, I really saw a company that had almost a $3 trillion market cap. Or I saw them as a total addressable market of around $3 trillion at around the time that I was buying. And I saw that Kathy Woods was saying all these great things, and there was a lot of people that were trying to go all in at the time. And then I was like, let's do it. Like, let's just go all into this company, because I really truly believe in the innovation and disruption that Tesla could achieve. And they achieved everything that I thought. They achieved even more than I thought. I honestly invested because of the robo-taxis as well. And I saw that as a enormous market, but that obviously didn't end up happening, but my investment went crazy anyway. So with Ethereum, the founder of Ethereum, he is a Elon Musk in my eyes, a light Elon Musk version, but he is still the person that innovated cryptocurrency. He made Ethereum become useful and have utility where Bitcoin did not. So I saw those two as innovators of their own industries, and Elon just innovator of every industry. He's probably the smartest man in the world. So if I can invest in Elon, I will, no matter what.
So when it comes to Karp and Thiel, I guess you kind of see some of that same innovative mindsets.
I have been looking at Palantir for about 5 years, and I wanted them to go public very, very quickly as soon as I got into the market. I know that people were trying to get them to go public for 12 years, but Alex Karp was like, we're going to go when we're profitable, and I totally understood that. However, Alex Karp understands a lot of things that other CEOs don't. He understands how to monetize his platform. Obviously, it's going to take a little while, but he understands that you need to build a company that people actually need. They need you more than you need them. And with other companies, it's the exact opposite. With Alex Karp, he is somebody that could go to any company and achieve greatness no matter what industry, because he just understands the business side of things. He understands the technology side of things. And I think that with Alex Karp, you have somebody paired with Peter Thiel, who is a brilliant mind as well. I mean, obviously, if you watch Social Network, you can see him as Justin Timberlake for Facebook. But with Peter Thiel, you have two people that have kind of very different thoughts on a lot of different things, but when it comes to business, they can put their collective minds together and build an amazing company. With Palantir, you have, Foundry, you have Gotham, and I'm blanking on the other one. I cannot believe Apollo. Yeah, you have those three, and they can all be $25 billion market capitalization companies, in my opinion. Probably not with Gotham. Gotham's a little lower, but it's AI prediction. I mean, how much is the government going to pay for that? Obviously, their upside is limited because they can't go into China and other places like that, but who cares? The US government's going to have to pay them something for all these. You just saw CDC. I saw you retweet that. That's incredible. There's not a lot of competitors in the space. You can say a C3 AI, but that's not really a competitor, because the companies that are already partnered with Palantir, it's very hard for another competitor to rip them away from Palantir. So you have a company that is more important to those companies than those companies are to Palantir. They don't care. They don't need the money. Investors are going to put a ton of money into it anyway to fund it because they need that. The government is not going to let Palantir fail because it's really the only thing that is the edge to these other countries. So that's a little harsh, but the technology that we're talking about is something that the humans don't even, like you and me, don't even see for the next 5 or 10 years. I like to tell people that you're getting into Palantir and you're seeing technology that you may never see in your life, but just know that it's creating a difference in the world. And I absolutely love that. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 1000%. Aiden Zan in the chat says, imagine the technology involving the military that we don't even know about. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this Russia-Ukraine stuff, we had Sham Senker, the CEO, basically come out and say, hey, we're helping a lot of companies in Europe deal with this crisis. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that turns out on the earnings reports. Now, you mentioned AI and sort of like data analytics. I guess from your perspective, like, what do you see in that industry? Because you invested in Ethereum because obviously you felt like crypto was going to be a growing industry. Invested in Tesla because EVs were a growing industry. How do you feel about data analytics as an industry in general?
Well, I think that companies are going to need data. They're going to need to see what customers are doing and consumers are doing with that, with anything that they have on their platform, because the data is going to allow people to see where there is a way to monetize. And it's kind of like when companies it's kind of like when a company would go online during the .com boom, you saw the ones that went online and you saw the ones that didn't. The ones that went online, their business increased. And I think I got that snippet from one of your older videos of somebody you were interviewing, but that just like clicked in my head and I was like, that is the perfect way to really say that and state that, because it really is. You're going to need Palantir if you want to succeed at the next level of what's going on in the future. So I think that companies are going to run to Palantir and they're going to increase their contracts immensely in the future. But the companies that aren't partnered with them right now, it's because they don't necessarily know that they need them. As soon as Palantir displays their technology for the entire world to see, we are going to see an entire industry that isn't yet fully even in its infancy. That's why Kathy Woods took away her Palantir investment, but it's because the industry is not growing fast enough. But the thing is, Palantir doesn't care about that. Palantir is going to continue to rack up these contracts, and the companies are not actually going to even know that they need Palantir until they need them. So Palantir can honestly monetize very, very quickly to those people that aren't early adapters into Palantir.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of companies need to be able to operationalize and make sense of their data. And at that point, you need some type of software that's integrated within a company to be able to help them understand their data at scale. It's like the more, and I didn't even get that when I was first buying into Palantir. I just thought they were a really cool company. And then when you really get it, you're like, oh, shoot. There's a real shot that this gets
no, I completely
bigger
agree.
than we thought it could become.
Yeah.
Have you read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel?
No, I've not.
Okay, definitely got to give that a read.
Yeah, I definitely need to get that.
Yeah, because the whole competition, right, is that like the famous quote in that book is competition is for losers. And when you think of what that means, it means that if you create a product that's so good, right, then you're not going to compete with anyone. And it's such a simple concept. But when I read the book a while back, and I recently reread it again over a couple months ago, and I was like, wait a second, that makes sense. Like, you don't need to compete with Tesla. Doesn't need to compete with someone if they're just that much better. So if they're like 30, 40, 50 times better. And it doesn't always have to be in product. It can be in a lot of verticals that come in business. But if you're better than someone else, you're not really competing with what other people think. You're just doing a lot of different things that get people excited at the end of the day.
We could have saved 5 minutes if I would have known that quote, because that is exactly what Palantir does. I mean, they don't have competition in their space. Companies don't even know that there's a space for that yet. They know what Palantir is probably, but I'm going to say that 40% of companies probably know what Palantir is, and the people that are investing in growth and innovative companies know, but not a lot of companies actually know what Palantir is. They don't know what Palantir does. They hear the name, they hear Peter Thiel, they hear Alex Karp, and they think, wow, that's really cool. But until you need a Palantir, you don't actually dive deep into what Palantir can do for you. And that's what the most exciting part, because obviously the market can say whatever it wants. It's wrong about Palantir. Palantir should not even be under $50 billion. Like, if it went, honestly, I don't know how it's not over $50 billion. You are getting free money if you're buying it this price, in my honest opinion. But that's not financial advice. But I think that yeah, I think that with Palantir, you're going to be able to get into a company that can actually change the world based on the industry that they're in that nobody else is in. And competition doesn't have to hurt them, even if there is, which there won't be competition because they're so far ahead of everybody. But if there even is somebody that jumps into the space, they're not going to steal the contracts away from Palantir. They might take one or two, but those government contracts, the government needs Palantir now. The Palantir has been working with government for a while now. We saw what happened with Osama bin Laden, and we saw what happened with that stuff and the things that they're doing with global warming and things like that. They're in so many different industries, and that increases their market capital. That will increase their market capitalization because it just expands their total addressable market. And with a lot of companies, you're going to be capped in the total addressable market. With Palantir, you're actually you need to wait for the market to grow for them, because you're investing into a company that is so young, even though it's not young. It's been there for 17, 18 years. But the thing about it is their industry is so young that they have to wait for other companies, in my opinion, or other companies to know that they need a Palantir.
How do you feel about their SPAC strategy and them investing in these like small mini companies and trying to get a return off them and like offering the product at a discount? Like, what's your kind of take on that method of going to market?
I love SPACs. I think that 1,000 SPACs are going to fail. But the thing is, a SPAC, all you have to do is look at what company is going via the SPAC. It's about the company, not the SPAC. I think the SPAC name actually hurts companies. They didn't know this, but look at what Bill Ackman did with PSTH. That was the largest SPAC in the world with $4 billion. It's kind of like the refrigerator patents. The guy that had them, he had the thing that was before that and held the refrigerator patents for 50 years. We've seen time and time again with Bill Ackman that he's kind of screwed up retail investors. And there was a movie, Valart, where it was about him slashing R&D for the medical industry. And that was very eye-opening, as well as the companies that were in there were just jacking up the prices to all the medicine to get that main profit, but slashing R&D, so nothing in that industry was actually going to increase. It's the same thing with SPACs. When a company has a SPAC and that SPAC is actually going to hurt the name. Look at IPOE, like Kamath Palihapitiya. He took SoFi public via a SPAC. That should have been easily a $50 I don't know the market capitalization, but I know that it's like around $6 or $8 billion market capitalization. They're getting rated by Bank of America, who is their main competitor. Like, the competitors are being able to rate a company like SoFi, which is obviously going to tell investors, hey, I'm going to back off here. But when you look into it, if they would have went IPO and would have partnered with one of those other banks, they actually probably would have a way larger market capitalization. The same thing has happened with a lot of these huge SPACs that ended up reversing right after, because we had the Nikola Motors with what was Nikola Motors went with Vector Acquisition, and Vector Acquisition actually took Rocket Labs public also. And Rocket Labs is a company that is testing reusable rockets, the only other company other than SpaceX. And they actually, I think they've had the prototype for a while, but they actually achieved success by getting Black Skies satellites into space. So when you think about SPACs, they have a tainted name right now because of all the ones that were bull. I mean, you can GM got screwed up by that Nikola Motors because they invested what $1 billion for 11% of the company, and then they were like, "Whoa, we got to back off here," because Trevor Milton just screwed everybody over because he pushed the vehicle down a hill. I don't know if you guys know that, and with hydrogen fuel cells, which Elon calls them fuel cells. But the thing about it is, you're seeing a lot of these SPACs that are great companies get destroyed because they're quote unquote meme stocks or SPACs, and then they just dip. It's all about the company. If you like a company and if you've been watching them on the private market for a while, you're going to notice the news that comes out about these companies after they go public is completely opposite of what happens after they go private, because they want you to invest in they want you to want to invest in when it's private, and as soon as that happens, sometimes the news just gets wiped off the web. I was watching SoFi, which is a company that was on a disruptor list, CNBC's disruptor list, for like 3 years in a row. And then I was looking at Palantir and then Snowflake and all these other companies. And as soon as they went public, everybody backed off, like, whoa, we're not touching that. Same thing with Airbnb and these other companies. But if you just wait a little while and you know you're investing in a good company, they're going to go up. You've seen it happen with NVIDIA that's gone up 65,000%, Tesla that's gone up thousands of percent, Bitcoin. I mean, I know that's another asset, but when there's really great value in the market, people are going to try to get you out of these companies and these assets because they want the money for themselves. It's a money market. People do crazy things for $10. What do you think people are going to do for $10 billion? So I think it's just something that a lot of people need to understand, to not think with emotion when you're doing these investments. You have to think with a very analytical mind. You have to think about where the future of the industries that they're in are going. And you have to think about what the companies have and what advantages they have over the other companies that are in there. With Palantir, they have a competition. They have an edge over the competition because there's no competition. And they set the price for that market. The only other company I see is C3 AI, and that's kind of like Palantir Light. If you look at C3 AI, that company has crashed on the stock market. It's obviously a good value now, but they are not anything what Palantir is. They are basically like the baby Palantir. They don't have the government contracts like we do. So I really think that Palantir is that company that can achieve the success no matter what the market says about them, and I'm just going to continue to buy the dips. I know I don't have as many shares as a lot of people. I think I have over 1,300. I don't know the exact number, but I need to try to get that up to at least 5,000 shares before it goes up, because I know that if I have 5,000 shares of Palantir, that is going to allow me to do anything that I want when I'm older, just off of the Palantir shares. I think that once you hit that mark of like 5,000, you can successfully just retire off your Palantir shares, in my opinion.
Let's look at this comment. What are bullish mindsets thesis breakers for Palantir? And anything for Q1 results. So let's start with thesis breakers. Anything that would kind of make it a bad investment for you?
The only thing is if their security with their technology continues to get hacked and over, and then we see places like, I think that What's important is what the data tells us and the data that they have. If that gets hacked, I feel like that is a red flag there, and something that, oh, someone who just hacked Palantir has all of their information now.
Yeah,
So
Palantir is one of those companies that you think can't ever get hacked. So if they got
mhm.
hacked, that would be pretty bad.
That's the biggest red flag for me, because if, let's say, another country that is competing with the United States really wants an edge, they just can focus on every single 24 hours a day trying to hack Palantir in some way, seeing a fault in the system, like the Death Star, and they get it somehow, then there is some serious concerns. I don't see that happening. I think that Palantir has incredible people that are working to stop that just in any case, and they probably have a ton of safety procedures. I don't know the right, I'm not saying the right word, but I know that they have that
They've
there.
mitigated the
So
risk. I mean, they know how to kind of stop it. I think companies wouldn't, and the governments, and they have like level 6 clearance or
mhm.
level 5 with the DoD. It's very difficult for them to get hacked or for data to get lost. I mean, they control some of the most confidential data in the world. How do you feel about Kathy Wood selling all of her Palantir and liquidating her position? What are your thoughts on that?
I love Kathy Woods, but I have no idea what she's doing. Like, it sounds like she is a fish, like drowned. Like, no, she is a fish out of the tank right now, because her hedge fund is continuing to go down, and I think the investors that are in there are like, "Get us money now. You are not right," because she said the bottom was this, the bottom was that, and it just keeps going down. I honestly think that Kathy Woods is super intelligent and super innovative and disruptive in the companies that she picks, but investing into Robinhood rather than Palantir, like, I don't see that. Why would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. And then you're buying Tesla and then selling Tesla and then rebuying. It's just a little weird what is going on with her investment thesis right now. But I love Kathy Woods. She taught me a lot about just like innovative and disruptive investing and what to look for. So I owe her everything. But I'm just saying, in selling out of Palantir because you don't think that the market is ready, and is not a good excuse to be selling a company that is very undervalued and could honestly be one of the biggest companies in the world rather quickly.
Yeah, I mean, their logic was that the government business they think is going to slow down, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like, okay, like it was a really weird argument. Like, it's like, yeah, it is interesting because I think a lot of the Kathy Wood fans, they want her to be right. Like, I want her to be right about disruptive
Mm-hmm.
innovation and all this stuff, because it's like you want to vote on the future, right? Just like as a progressive person, you want like cool stuff to happen. And then when you see someone just completely liquidate a position, take a $400 million loss, it makes you really
Yeah.
question: did you make the mistake with the investment thesis, or are they just out of their minds? Some of the other investments that they're super deep on is like Roku and Zoom and Teladoc. Do you kind of are you bullish on some of those companies, or do you think Palantir is better than them?
Well, to answer your first question, when you look at Ark X, I don't know which one it is. It might be Ark K, the space ETF. You look at it and it's like companies like John Deere, like companies that have no business being in the space ETF. And you look at companies like Roku, which is cool, not really innovative or disruptive. I have a Roku TV and it works fine, but I'm not paying billions of dollars to invest in a company like that. I honestly think that Palantir, if you're looking for innovation and disruption, it is right in front of your face. You don't have to even think about it if you're Kathy Woods. You have people looking at the decisions that are going on every single day. And I honestly think that Kathy Woods might have been forced out of Palantir, might have been like, hey, you should probably leave this stock. Not because it's not going to be a winner in the future, just because it's like there are some negative connotations against a company like Palantir that our investors don't like. I think that that is more of the case
You think
why
that might have been the
Kathy Woods
reason
did.
why she had to liquidate?
I don't think it's because she realized it was a bad company. She was buying in January and
Yeah,
then sold 2, 3. I don't even think it was 2
later.
months later. So it's like, what? I just didn't understand that.
How do you feel about the negative percent? A lot of people call the company a company that spies on you, sells your data, works with services in the government that do unethical things. How do you feel about the negative perception that many investors have from Palantir?
People said that about Facebook, and it turned out to be true. But Peter Thiel obviously was involved with Facebook. But the thing about Palantir is helping us with Facebook or one of these other companies that may or may not be spying on us. They're not necessarily helping us. I would rather be spied on, which I don't think is happening. I mean, I don't think that's happening, but I would rather be spied on by the US government than by another government. I mean, we saw it with hackings with even the video game Among Us, which was brought by Unity. If you guys don't know Unity, it's one of the companies Kathy Woods actually invests in as well, also Roblox. But it's kind of like I would rather be, as a US citizen, monitored by the US and Palantir than another country, in my opinion. So they have to, because someone is going to. I just don't think that is what they're doing. I think it's more so other things, because Apple could do that if we're FaceTiming. They could scan our entire room. They do Face ID. I think that a lot of these companies do that, but I don't think Palantir is really trying to spy on us. They have more important things to do.
Yeah, I think also like a lot of people say they sell data and stuff. It's like if anyone sells data, it's big tech. It's not Palantir.
Yeah.
You know, Palantir provides tools for companies to be able to understand and make sense of their data, but that's not necessarily selling data. Nor do they have an interest to sell data, because their entire thesis is trying to protect Western freedoms. I mean, they limit their total addressable market by not working with adversarial countries like Russia and China, as we were talking about. So it is kind of silly when I kind of hear the negative press. And like, I kind of bought into it early on when I was just like, I was really digging deep. I was like, oh my God, this is a bad company. And then you start really reading articles and you're like, who is this written by? What's their agenda here? Why are they doing this? What is the company actually doing? Talk to the companies that are working with the company and see the results they're getting. I mean, there was a guy today, the European Cricket Network. They're part of Foundry for Builders, and he was tweeting today about Palantir. And he was basically like, it is the most amazing sort of data analytics platform for us to be able to get things done. And when you see people talking about it in such a positive sense, you're like, okay, wait a second. This is it's a little weird for people to just be saying Palantir is the most unethical company in the world. That's probably not happening. So I want to get some of your thoughts on some other stocks while we're here. How about big tech, Facebook, Google? Are those a buy right now, or do you think they're done with their growth curve?
I think Google, to quote Elon or one of the like big guys, Google is a mountain. You can't move it. You can climb it. It's always going to be there. They have YouTube that's continuing to grow. I love using the platform. They work with like a company called 23andMe, which is a company, Richard Branson's SPAC took them public. And if you think about 23andMe with what they did with the DNA, the same person that owns 23andMe is married, if I'm not mistaken, to the same person that owns YouTube.
Yeah, she's the CEO of YouTube. Yeah, I think they're sisters, I think.
Okay. I knew that they were somehow related. I do apologize for that. But YouTube or Google is one of those companies that owns almost like a lot of different industries. With Facebook and Meta, that's a really big play on the metaverse. And I actually think that there's a lot more metaverse stocks that you can buy into, like Roblox, which is something that Kathy Woods is investing in. I actually haven't really gone into Roblox like very, very much. Like not even 1% of my portfolio is in Roblox, but I kind of like Matterport. If you don't know what MTTR, they have a ton of spatial data for the metaverse. I don't really like Meta right now. I don't like Facebook. Facebook is something that I think is, if it's one of the top tech companies that I invest in.
Oh, you're good. You're muted. You're fixing it, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, cool. My headphone died, and so I put my other one in. Going back to the big tech, I think that if we're going to talk about big tech, Facebook's the one that I dislike the most. As well as,
do you think the metaverse? Do you think their bet on the metaverse is going to be successful, or do you think other companies are going to itch away and it's going to be more decentralized, not kind of Facebook operating?
The metaverse is going to be very decentralized. I don't think that anybody wants Facebook to own all that. But if you look at the Oculus is absolutely amazing. You go into there, it scans your entire room, which is kind of scary if you're thinking of Facebook, because they own all that data on us, and now they're going into our houses with Oculus, which people don't think about. But
That's true.
now Oculus has all that data. But the reason I think that Facebook went to Meta was so that when you see those Oculus commercials, you forget that they have anything to do with Facebook, because Facebook already has all those things that are like, that's a little weird. Why are you doing that with our data? Oculus is on the NBA floors. If you're watching the NBA playoffs, you can see Meta Oculus all the time. But Apple is also going into the metaverse. I would choose Apple over Facebook, in my opinion. But the thing about Facebook right now, they have all that. They have the early edge. They're the early innovators for that. So I think that both Matterport and Roblox, you can significantly increase your portfolio by 10x quicker than Facebook, because it already has that huge market capitalization. But I do believe that Facebook's going to make you money if you wanted to invest into it.
Cool on 2K says, am I the only one who thinks the metaverse was a thing because we got bored during lockdowns? Now things are popping off and getting real. I kind of feel what they're saying. How do you feel about this comment? Or do you think the metaverse will be big?
I know that the Oculus came out before the pandemic and everything that hit, but it definitely increased sales. Facebook has been trying to get into the metaverse for a long time. That's why they have the Oculuses. That's why they're so great. If you don't have an Oculus, please buy one if you're thinking about getting into the metaverse, because it's kind of life-changing. It makes video games feel way worse. And you're seeing all the things that are happening with the accessories for the metaverse as well. I just think that right now the headsets need to get a lot smaller. I think that they're going to be like glasses, kind of like Google glasses were going to be, and it's going to be more immersive, where if you're going into VR porn is life-changing. Oh my gosh. If you're going into the metaverse, I love that you put it up. I honestly just think that the metaverse is something that you can monetize very easily. Cryptocurrencies, NFTs, all that stuff, I think is getting purchased up now so that you can go into the metaverse and it's going to monetize, but it's not going to be like Player Ready 1 in the next 10 years. I think it's going to be like that probably I don't know if it's ever going to be like that, but it could be something similar to that in the next 25 years. But if the metaverse actually happens and it's incredible, it could change the world, because we're already seeing a lot of people with social anxiety. They don't really want to go back to school. I have cousins that don't really want to go back to school because of the pandemic and everything, and people are scared to. It's an easier way for people to interact with others without actually having to leave your house.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think that the question for the metaverse is if the computation platform by which we access it changes. So like it was computers and it's phones, and phones are the gateway to everything. So like our headset's going to be that gateway. I don't know. And if they are, they have to be super lightweight. They have to be multiple versions of them, right? People have to want to wear them all day. Like there's a lot of questions to answer on that front, which is why I think the metaverse is a little bit farther than most of us think it's going to be from now. But Facebook's got the biggest user base, right? 3 billion people. So it's like if they create it and they do it well, they have a shot for sure.
And WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. I mean, people don't really think about that. Facebook is Facebook. I mean, they're going to continue to dominate, but I think that the metaverse as an investment is at least 3 to 5 years away if I'm going to be investing into it. And I could be wrong. It could go up tomorrow, but I just don't see any significant improvements going on in the next year or two.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. That's pretty good. I think this was a really, really fun podcast. We got to know who Anthony from Bullish Mindset is. Everyone, check him out. Just go on YouTube, type in Bullish Mindset. You'll find him. His Twitter is in the description. Interesting guy. He's young. He's in his early 20s, and he's been investing for about 4 or 5 years now. And he's been early on some interesting trends. Now, one last question. Do you think Wall Street and big money will take a long time to get into Palantir due to lack of understanding? What do you think? Last question. Do you think Wall Street's going to get it sooner or later?
Wall Street is definitely wrong about a lot of stocks right now, and especially innovation and disruption. And a lot of retail that gets into these shorts, the long-term shorts, are going to get burned very badly. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Palantir goes up. And big money is going to have to invest into it sometime. If it doesn't, then if it doesn't for a long time, then that's good because we can get a run, kind of like what Tesla happened. The institutions came in after it ran up. So then they wanted their own run up and then it went up again. So honestly, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we run up before big money gets in.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. Thank you all so much for watching. Definitely check them out on Twitter. Thank you for coming on the podcast this week. Bullish Mindset, Anthony, Lucid Verse, all your aliases. And we'll see you guys in the next one. All right.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
guys.